All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this January 24th, 2023 regular meeting of the West Covina Planning Commission to order. We will now take a moment for silent prayer or meditation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Commissioner Hang. Please rise.
Please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Paulina, roll call, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. Commissioner Hang?
Here.
Commissioner Williams? Present. Commissioner Becerra?
Here.
Vice Chair Gutierrez?
Here.
Chair Lewis?
Here. All right, moving on to oral communications. This would be the time that anyone can speak on an item which is not on the agenda. I do have one card. And Nicole Martin, will you please come forward?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Nicole. I'm a West Covina resident, and for my senior project, I decided on trying to improve walkability in my local neighborhood. So, just in case if you don't know, I really wanted to expand the sidewalk near one of my places that I like going to a lot, because I noticed that it's very unsafe when it comes down to two-way traffic. So if we're going southbound to northbound or northbound to southbound. And I was just wondering, because since I'm required for my school to get points and stuff, if I were to make a petition regarding expansion of a sidewalk, how many signatures would I need for that petition? Thank you.
Thank you. So with regard to that issue, I don't think that's within the purview of the Planning Commission. It would most likely be within the purview of the City Council, who would ultimately have to allocate some funding for that. And I would probably direct you to the Assistant City Manager over here, which is Paulina Morales, and she can probably give you some additional information, perhaps after the meeting. If you can give her, I think we have your contact info. If maybe you can provide an email address or something like that, and she can get in contact with you.
She can submit it to the traffic committee, no? Paulina?
That's
yes, the appropriate
street.
Body that you would present that request to would be the traffic committee. And so if you do provide me your email address, I can send you the link to get that started.
And that's great you're doing that. And send that to Paulina, and I'm sure Paulina will make sure it gets to the right commission committee, and they could review it, and maybe your input will make a change.
Thank you. All right. Do we have anyone else who'd like to speak on an item that is not on the agenda tonight? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on. We have one public hearing scheduled for tonight. Paulina, who will present the staff report for the first public hearing?
Our planning aide, Martin Barbosa, will present the first staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is item number 1. Conditional Use Permit 22-10, and it's to amend Conditional Use Permit 22-03. It's Livetastic Learning, located at 1414 South Azusa Avenue at Suite B19. So this conditional use permit is to allow the relocation of a tutoring center used from Suite B18 to Suite B19. Highlighted in red is the subject site. It's 1,400 square feet in size. It's zoned under neighborhood commercial, and it's located at the South Hills Shopping Center. Highlighted in yellow is the subject site. It's on the second floor, adjacent to Suite B18. So highlighted in red, it's the old location, and in yellow, adjacent to it, it's the new location. This is the floor plan. Red arrow showing the entrance. In purple, the reception area. In green, room 1. In red, the open room. In blue, room 2. And in yellow, the restroom. So LifeTastic Learning is a tutoring center for special needs children, which includes activities such as music, board games, yoga, science, math, and art, and cooking. It consists of 1 full-time employee and 2 part-time employees. There's 5 students per classroom at any given time, maximum of 20 students, and it's K through 12. The business hours are Monday through Saturday from 2:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m., with each session being about 60 to 120 minutes, including break time. Planning staff recommends adopting resolution number 23-6118, approving conditional use permit 22-10. I am available for any questions. Thank you.
All right. Anyone have any questions at this point?
So they're just moving from one unit to the other, or are they expanding?
They're moving from one unit to the next one.
Any other questions? All right, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing, and let's hear testimony from the applicant if they want to speak.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ivy, and here's Alice, and we are the owner of the LifeTastic Learning. We are moving to next door and requesting to have the update new CUP. We moved to next door because one of our piano teacher that she's moving. And then we are having more kids, around 25 kids for the community that joining our center. And we saw the next door that they just moved out 2 months ago. That is more expandable or like better environment for our kids. And then so that's why we wanted to, even though it's the timing for the COP is 2 months, but we still wanted to have a better environment for our kids. So
Understand.
thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
I have one question.
Vice Chair Gutierrez?
Great. I have one question. Just wanted to know, has the center been licensed already by the Department of Social Services already? By the Community Licensing Department already?
The regional center for the
I think it's called Community Care Licensing Division. It's a licensing for child care services or learning centers. California, not yet.
Yeah, it would be. You guys are through the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center.
we already
We already funded with San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center, and then we're the official.
Okay,
since we
great.
got the COP in July.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So there, but
And now our students mainly referred by San Gabriel Regional Center, so we are serving this area.
Okay, great.
West Covina, we are serving like some of the kids and other cities as well.
they're coming from Arcadia as well.
Okay, great. Mhm. That's all.
Any other questions?
I have one. For this particular tutoring, it says for special needs children. You're mainly only for special needs children?
It's an inclusive environment. So we accept special needs students, and also we have typical joining. It's more like the activity class instead of the after school program. They come for 1 hour to class with me, but the typical kids and the special needs kids, they are having class together. So we are, because when we are handled with regional center, we are partnered with the social recreation vendor. So we have to provide an inclusion environment. So the typical kid can learn to accepting the kid with special needs, and the special needs can learn the skill from
And we lean around 30% from the typical KIF because of regional center, their requirement.
Any other questions? Thank you. All right. Next, we'll open the hearing for any testimony from those in favor. Anyone? Seeing none, we'll move forward to any testimony from those opposed. Anyone else want to speak on this matter? All right, seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and open this up for discussion within the commission. A motion?
I'll make a motion to approve conditional use permit number 22-10 and amendment to CUP number 22-03 for applicant Life Testing Learning Center. Yes.
All right, so we have a motion by by Vice Chair Gutierrez, a second by Commissioner Becerra. Paulina, roll call, please.
Okay. So we have, Commissioner Heng.
The resolution number, I think.
Yes. So resolution number 23-6118. Commissioner Heng.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Becerra.
Aye.
Vice Chair Gutierrez.
Aye.
And Chair Lewis.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, this action is final unless appealed to the City Council within 10 days. All right, moving on to non-hearing items. Item number 2, consideration of a request to recommend a moratorium on drive-through restaurants. Paulina, who will read the staff report?
Yes, thank you. Our planning manager, Joanne Burns, will provide this presentation.
Good evening, Honorable Chair, members of the Planning Commission. This item is a non-hearing item. This is a request for a consideration to recommend a moratorium to the City Council for drive-through food establishments or restaurants. The current code requires a conditional use permit subject to Planning Commission review and approval for any drive-through uses within the city. Currently, staff, as part of the reviewing conditional use permit applications for drive-through establishments, staff requires a drive-through queuing analysis. This ensures that there is enough queuing of vehicle stacking on site so that traffic would not spill over into the street. However, although a site may not have enough vehicle stacking for a proposed drive-through, applicants do have the right to process the conditional use permit without staff's approval and be heard by the Planning Commission. Currently, there are 12 drive-through food establishments within the city within 1,000 feet away from the Interstate 10 freeway, and there are approximately 25 drive-throughs in the entire city of West Covina. I'll go ahead and show or present the locations for current drive-through restaurant food establishments within 1,000 feet from the 10 freeway. Along Vincent Avenue, there is the Starbucks and the Chick-fil-A. As far as queuing is concerned, vehicle queuing is concerned, there have been complaints that the city have received regarding queuing and traffic being caused by vehicle stacking not being enough on site for the Chick-fil-A. And these complaints have been past complaints that the city had received. Along Azusa Avenue, within 1,000 feet from the 10 freeway, we have the McDonald's on the north and the Mexican restaurant on the south. I forgot what it's called. There, among the 12 restaurants or food establishments with drive-throughs, 8 of those restaurants are near Citrus Street and Branca Street, and I have numbered them on the aerial photograph. There is and 3 of these sites are still under construction. We have the former Hooters site that will be occupied by a Chick-fil-A, which is labeled 6. Labeled 7 is going to be the Jollibee drive-through food establishment and restaurant, and 8 is also still under construction, and when it was reviewed by the Planning Commission, it was anticipated to be a drive-through Panera Bread. With this, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission take either one of the 4 actions that are presented on the projector, either to recommend the City Council adopt a moratorium prohibiting drive-through restaurants in the entire city, recommend that the City Council adopt a moratorium that would prohibit drive-throughs within 100 feet of the interstate, 1,000 feet from the Interstate 10 freeway, continue discussion with direction for staff to conduct more research and obtain more information, or take no action. Again, if the Planning Commission does recommend that the City Council adopt a moratorium, this would be a temporary halt in the allowance of drive-through food establishment within the city, and it would be while the city is working on the development code update. Staff is available for any questions if the Planning Commission has any.
Any questions, anyone?
Yes. What part of the update will affect the drive-throughs?
It would be under the non-residential zones for the commercial portion of the city's zoning code, and it would either be it would include certain performance standards. Or may prohibit drive-throughs in certain locations. That hasn't. The city is still working on studying and investigating this, so we don't have an exact language as of yet.
Any other questions?
I had a question. So right now we have close to 20 drive-through facilities that are nearest the 10 freeway.
Near the 10 freeway, within 1,000 feet from the 10 freeway, we have 12.
Well,
yes.
Okay, and then you indicated, does that include the 3 that are under construction, about ready to open? Oh, okay, got you. Okay.
Sorry, 8 of the 3 is located within the general area of the Eastland Center.
Do you guys know exactly how many other properties, because of their current zoning along the 10, that might actually be available?
There are So along Restaurant Row, that area would be available because those are commercially zoned properties. On the south side of Garvey Avenue, on the other side of the freeway, those are also commercially zoned properties. On the south side, along McIntyre Square, those are also commercially owned properties that could potentially be available, or an applicant can potentially be submitted for that along the mall area. And let's see. And along Garvey Avenue north of the mall.
Are you guys aware, I'm assuming any of the properties, because if they're near the on-ramps or off-ramps, they also end up having to submit to Caltrans, don't they also? Especially if the major street that, for example, the one facility that's going in over near LA Fitness, because of their location, the main arterial also provides access to the 10 going east and west. So didn't they also have to separately contact Caltrans and get permission as far as their driveway and explaining to them what their operation would be?
I wasn't aware that was done for the Chick-fil-A, which is along, which is just north of the freeway off-ramp, but that, I believe, Caltrans had to be involved with the development of the supermarket site near where the Panera Bread is anticipated to be located, but it was not because of the drive-through.
Panera Bread, where's Panera Bread?
Well, when it went to the Planning Commission,
okay.
The grocery store shopping center that's under construction, it was stated that it's anticipated to be a drive-through Panera Bread.
Originally?
Originally, I'm not sure if that's still going to be the case.
I think Caltrans only gets involved if it deals with their property.
Well, see, the only reason why I'm asking, there are also property owners within 300 feet of some of those properties. So in the noticing process, I would have thought they also would have stepped up, especially depending on where the entrance to the facility is going to be, and then wanting to understand if that's going to cause some type of potential problem for people trying to get on or off the freeway.
Yes, Caltrans was part of the notification. However, they did not contact us in the planning process. However, that Chick-fil-A that is under construction on the north side of that off ramp, it does provide more than sufficient queuing per their queuing analysis. So it's not anticipated that it would spill over into the street.
Okay.
And so what did the committee recommend? What was it? The Code Amendment Committee. What did they recommend? Because if I remember correctly, I know former Mayor Castellanos and Councilmember Tony Wu gave direction at that committee for staff to develop a plan to. So can you remind this commission what we discussed and what was the outcome of that conversation?
Well, I don't think I can speak. That's a subcommittee meeting for the development code update, and so they don't provide direction. It's recommendations for the development code update.
Yeah.
And so
eventually I'll go to the whole council, but they gave.
There was discussion about doing a moratorium on the drive-throughs within the city, and there was discussions about doing it along the 10 freeway or citywide, and so.
And what was their concern? Just so the commission knows, because it's not my idea. I'm bringing this topic for a reason. So Can we remember what was the concerns relating to that?
As our planning manager mentioned, I think that because we are doing the development code update, we did want to take a look at, the drive-throughs and what the requirements to process, how we want to move forward with allowing drive-throughs in the city because of the potential. For example, Jollibee and Chick-fil-A, the both that are under construction, they've demolished sit-down restaurants to make way for the drive-throughs, and having the concentration, I think it was 8 or 9 drive-throughs in that area, just alone adjacent to or in the Eastland Center. It was something that was brought up in that committee, and whether or not it would be something that the Planning Commission or the council would like to take a deeper look into conditional use permits for drive-throughs and what that process would be moving forward for drive-throughs.
Yeah, because there was some property owners, not to name exactly who, that there was knowledge of property owners raising the rent for those sit-down restaurants to try to evict them in order to get top brand drive-throughs to come into our city. So this will allow a city to have a little more oversight on what occurs in that process, so we could preserve the opportunity to have sit-down restaurants in our city and not just drive-throughs off our freeways.
But also lease agreement between, among commercial property, normally it's a 30-year lease or so. So it's not up to cities to dictate in terms of how, how they want to control their lease. I mean, if you have a 30-year lease, you kind of have to wait up until 30 years to make another contract.
Yeah, so some of those restaurants who are sit down there have been around for many years, and their leases are almost up for, and they're going month by month because there's some owners who want luxury drive-through restaurants like Raising Cane's instead of a sit-down restaurant like TGI Friday. So that's the concern that I was informed of. So what was the... Let's see, where's... So what was the options we have today again on this matter?
So the options are that that the Planning Commission recommend to the City Council, because it would be the City Council that would be implementing or adopting a moratorium, is to do a moratorium of drive-throughs for the entire city, for 1,000 feet away from Interstate 10 freeway, or to continue discussions with staff, or to take no actions. So those are the 4 options.
I just wanted to point out that the 1,000 feet came from the last Planning Commission meeting when the item was suggested to be part of this meeting's agenda. So we had included the 1,000 feet in the recommendation, but it can be 500 feet, 2,000 feet, and so forth.
Just curious, do we have an overlay map that shows what 1,000 feet north and south of the freeway would look like?
I can provide an example from this map. So
currently, Joanne, I have a quick question though. Currently, if anyone who wants to drive through, all the restaurants or what have you needs to request for a conditional use permit, right?
That's correct.
So a conditional use permit is a condition use permit, meaning that they don't have a right of ways to get their drive-through. So they still have to go through the Planning Commission. And then even if we approve or disapprove, it still gets moved on to City Council.
It does not go to City Council unless it's appealed.
Yeah, and that's a great question. So, and maybe the city attorney can elaborate on it, which is because there's no rules in place currently. If there was some sort of deal to evict TGI Fridays in order to make way for a Raising Cane's, and these are just general terms being made, that the city wouldn't be able to deny their conditional use permit just based upon the fact that a sit-down restaurants coming in and drive-thrus coming in. I mean, vice versa. So that's why it's important to have these set of rules in place, and that's why the Code Amendment Committee recommended these changes going forward, which will eventually, when the Code Amendment Committee, I think we're done already, but once the contractors finish their work, they're going to send that update to the city council to approve it, to review it for approval.
So the moratorium is for how long? The extent of time?
It requires a 4/5 vote of the council, and it's initially for 45 days, and then they can then extend it to a maximum 2 years if it requires further study. And just to follow up on the CUP, so CUPs, the commission, especially because we're dealing with commercial, has discretion to deny or impose conditions or require traffic studies. So there is some discretion there when it comes to CUPs, and certainly you have the flexibility to request further study, request the moratorium. This is really council's discretion at this point, or commission's discretion.
Well, we know that the updates are...
Yeah, so what happens if those updates come back positive, which says it's according to traffic studies, it's okay to have a drive-through there. So is the city still have the right to deny that applicant the right to have a drive-through? Or would that raise possible litigation?
Well, with the conditional use permit, they have standard findings because they understand each case that is requesting is unique in and of itself. And what the city attorney, I think, is explaining to us, it's understood that queuing to know how many vehicles they can stack on site. And by them being in business, whichever the business is, they can also provide us with information based on the size of their facility, how many vehicles they serve at their different peak times, giving us information. And I guess what he's saying, the conditional use permit, that's what its job is to give us some latitude in getting information so that we can try to work with the business owner as well as the neighboring property.
But it's to the extent of what this committee is entitled to recommend and not recommend. So it comes to a point where too many limits can cause possible litigation if an applicant is denied for unjust reasons, if studies come back differently. So that's why I think it was important that an action like this be taken. And I don't necessarily think that we should recommend a change to the city council. I think what we should do is recommend that we ask the city council to look into the matter as a whole, that we ask them to make that decision and that study, because they have the power to ask staff to come back with more studies and more logistics and so forth on their findings and what should be done and what shouldn't be done. So I would like to see that we make a recommendation to the city council to look into the matter.
But in terms of business, there's also a demand. Whether it's a sit-in restaurant or a drive-through restaurant, there must be a demand. For the last several years, I guess, it's the online service that has a lot of demand, and also the drive-through has a lot of demand. So going on forward, I can't say for sure if the online business is hot items all the time, or it's going to go back to normal, that we like to go to the big boxes to buy all things. And the sit-in restaurants and the drive-through, it depends on the demands. So let's say just because someone have a drive-through a year or two ago doesn't mean that people is going to use it. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. And
I agree on the preservation of the city as well. So, I mean, I think the update committee, when they, lay out the rules of the drive-throughs or amount of, because I know they have them on certain other businesses like dance halls or bars, or this also is just another item, on the list. And it actually will make our job easier because, we won't have to make that decision or, for an applicant who wants to change a sit-down restaurant to a drive-through. If they are already over the limit in the city, then it won't be our choice anyways.
But also, it's unique that West Covina has a stretch of the 10 freeway that cut across West Covina. So, to some extent, a lot of drive-through, they don't want to put it in the middle between the 210 and the 10 freeway.
Yeah, so like we're giving an example here. Like when Chick-fil-A opened on Vincent and West, whatever those streets are, West Covina Parkway, they said that their traffic was never going to overflow. It ended up happening multiple times. Now you have a Chick-fil-A right off the 10 freeway, which traffic studies say it's okay. It's not going to overflow, which I find impossible because there's no stoplight when you exit the 10 freeway off that ramp. So you're going to have cars going straight up into that driveway, creating collisions with the incoming traffic, which sometimes stop and don't stop at that intersection. So that's why stuff like this is important. And I know.
But then at the same time, I don't know if we should create a moratorium to stop all business.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think that we should give the city council that discretion to look into it.
We have a conditional use permit. That's what they're for. Each lot, the commissions can look at each lot, its uniqueness of each lot, whether it's compatible for drive-through, whether it's compatible with sit-in. I mean, hey, some restaurants only have 5 seats. So what do you say to that? And it's still working.
Well, let's find out from staff.
Restaurant has 50.
We're limited on nice restaurants in the city. Let's be honest. Limited.
Yeah.
Where do you go? You go to another city sometimes because we don't have really that.
And this is not this is an idea I brought forward, but this is an idea brought from the committee that's going to be end up recommending this change regardless to the city council off their vote. But it was informed by 2 council members at that time the need to bring this to the commission so they could review it further because it was an important topic to the mayor, the former mayor and the current council member, that they have the opportunity to review discussion on a matter like this, because there is possibility more restaurants are could come in that area, and the CUP has its limits, and staff didn't say nothing about CUPs at our committee, what's it called, code update committee thing. So, and because they know there's limits to the CUP, and so maybe they could explain again why the committee members recommended that the contractors write up proposed code amendment because of the concerns the committee had. But
what do you mean the contractor is writing up proposed?
Where's the company called?
The consultant.
The consultants.
CTGY.
Yeah.
The city's consultant.
It's not uncommon that other cities that have drive-throughs, they have, just as West Covina, they require a conditional use permit, but some are a little bit more detailed as far as they explain the amount of stacking that they want. They automatically have it understood that you have to do a traffic study for that reason and for the queuing and so forth.
Like for
understanding about the placement of where the actual restaurant building will go. Like, for example, the In-N-Out that was over on San Bernardino Road. It was an older In-N-Out, so it was closer to the street. One of the things they did do, since they were a busy location, they tore down the old building, they moved it further back on the property, and they tried to create for more queuing and better access so that it wouldn't affect the other businesses that were next to them and across the street. So with time, there are things that do change and there are improvements. And I think what Joanne was saying is, one of the options that they would have is to look at it a little closer and maybe put down some specific things that we would automatically ask everyone who would be coming to ask for a drive-through. Because it's not just food now. You might have someone else with some other type of business that happens to be a drive-through.
For example, if I can add to that, pharmacies have drive-throughs as well.
Yes.
Exactly. So maybe we could, that's why I was saying we should refer the matter to the city council so they can have discussions on explore the topic more.
Well, actually, the way that staff is doing it, they're giving us several options to choose from.
I guess we could do it too.
Once we choose, then they'll know how to proceed.
Yeah, we could. I mean, we could. I just didn't want, I thought it was more cost efficient to send it to the city council so they could ask for the studies. But if we could request studies too, but it's in a double dip because the city council is going to ask for their studies too. And then we're going to ask for our own studies, and that all adds up. But yeah.
For now, it's just the moratorium where.
But the moratorium is only 45 days, and I don't know how comfortable to just stop drive-through just because.
But it's a recommendation to the city council. It's not binding on anything.
Yeah.
So I'm not, ultimately, whatever happens, this is a city council decision. We're just making a recommendation, or we can take no action. So that's it. So fundamentally, that's not technically what our concern would be. Our concern would be, does a recommendation here make any sense? If it doesn't, then we take no action and we call it a night. But, ultimately, I think that's kind of where the discussion needs to head is, are we going to take an action or are we going to take no action and kind of move on? So any further discussion?
Yeah, I think I'll just say that, the concern is that there's existing sit-down restaurants who are possibly seeing rent increases so drive-through restaurants can replace their structure with a drive-through. That was the concern that was told to me. And so that's the only reason why I'm saying we should look into it, or we should refer the matter to the city council to look into it on their own in general terms. Not saying that we support or oppose the matter. We're just saying, city council, we think you should look into this matter on your own and make a decision on your own. That's it.
Any other discussion? I'll go out on a limb here. I've obviously been quite an advocate for having some cohesiveness in the city for many years. And frankly, what has really irritated me as a citizen and as a resident of the city for decades is that Restaurant Row is a hodgepodge mess, and it should have never been what it has become. So fundamentally, I am willing to go out on the limb and say, we need to put the halt on this right now, and we should recommend that the city council impose a moratorium, because ultimately, all of these things that have been approved are going to have an impact on our streets and, frankly, on our quality of life. I mean, frankly, ultimately, this isn't the applicant's fault or anything like that. But I just look at what has happened to the curve, what has happened. That's going to be an unmitigated disaster. And fundamentally, this commission has a history of just approving everything and not really thinking about the long-term considerations. And realistically, I think that it's time for that to change. It's time for us to grow up as a city and have a cohesive plan that we actually implement. And we take the 2 decades or 3 decades or however long it's going to take to implement a cohesive plan in this city. And so fundamentally, I think we should make that recommendation to the city council that, hey, look, we want to have restaurants that we want to go to, that we're not having to leave West Covina and go to Brea or Covina now. I mean, I remember as a kid, Covina never had any restaurants, and because West Covina always had the best restaurants, and now the shoe is on the other foot. And I hate saying that about the city that I live in. I hate it. I don't want that to be. I don't want that to be what our future is moving forward. So, my perception is, at the very least, we look at having a corridor-based moratorium on a temporary basis that we recommend to the city council. My perception would be not necessarily based on 1,000 feet, but for this side of the city, it would probably be all the way back to the back end of West Covina Parkway. And then for the other side of the city, I think we're probably looking at I believe that would be Walnut Creek. Probably be the cross street that would make the most sense as far as distance from on the south side, and then obviously I think up to Workman throughout the remainder of the city. That would be my recommendation, and I will make a motion that we make that recommendation to the city council.
And I'll second.
I also want to add a little bit to the histories of, in terms of restaurants. I do love to have the restaurants in West Covina. It's just so convenient as a resident just to go, visit the restaurants and what have you, or eat there. I just also wanted to say that that area, that Chick-fil-A area, they did try to develop restaurants around that area 2 decades ago, or a decade ago. That means between 10 to 20 years ago. But none of those restaurants succeed. Not all restaurants, the sit-in restaurants in West Covina, just because someone want to build a restaurant there, residents of West Covina will not go and support our local restaurants. That doesn't mean, so that whole general area, there used to be restaurants all over.
Monterey Bay Cannery was there for years.
Sure was, and Charlie Brown was there,
For years.
and Love's was there, and we used to have a Tony Romo, which wasn't in that area, but over on Azusa. That's the reason why census is important, because they look at your population and it tells them what types of services your community needs. One of the main generators, too, is that they look at the income level. I believe when the Macaroni Grill was over at the lakes, they indicated they could not generate the money that they needed to.
I think there was an elephant bar or something over there as well.
Where the Chick-fil-A is, that was an elephant bar.
Oh, yeah.
All right, any further discussion? We have a pending motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, so we have the motion by me and seconded by Vice Chair Gutierrez. Roll call.
Chair Lewis, if I could just clarify. So on the west end of the city, you wanted to go as far south as West Covina Parkway, and then on the east side of the city?
On the east, I would say,
as far as Workman.
I would say Walnut Creek Parkway. I believe that's the street that comes out right by McIntyre Square.
On the south side, and Workman on the north side.
Correct.
Okay. Commissioner Heng?
Yes, aye.
Aye? Okay. Commissioner Williams?
No.
Commissioner Becerra?
Aye.
Vice Chair Gutierrez?
Aye.
Chair Lewis?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, moving on to commission reports, comments, and miscellaneous items. Does anyone on the commission have anything to report or comment on at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to the Community Development Director's report. Paulina, do you have any items to report to the commission?
No.
Okay, moving on to City Council actions. Any council actions you'd like to speak to?
I apologize. I got that confused. So I did want to provide an update. We are celebrating our centennial this year. West Covina is turning 100. Our birthday is next month in February, and we are kicking off the centennial year with our centennial celebration and dinner Thursday, February 16th. It'll be located at the Sportsplex. Tickets are on sale. They're $50. And it's from 6 to 8 p.m. There's also going to be, following the dinner that weekend, February 17th to the 19th, the Centennial Spring Festival. We had the Spring Festival last year at the Sportsplex. This year, it'll be relocating to Glendora Avenue. There's going to be carnival, food, vendors, entertainment, and a lot of family fun. So we invite everyone to attend our kickoff events for West Covina Centennial.
Just curious, is the Centennial Festival going to be different this year than the Spring Festival, or I'm honestly curious because technically it's not spring.
It's there will be elements of activities related to the Centennial, and then we are working with the same nonprofits from last year to incorporate them into this year's festival. So
Okay, the Centennial Festival. Okay, all right. Okay, all right. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, since we have no further business to conduct tonight, this meeting is adjourned at 7:50 p.m. Good night, everyone.